Hey, what's happening, gamers? It's Steve from Drifter Gaming here today, just discussing the leak that broke this evening from Nate the Hate on social media. Basically, where he's saying that Halo Master Chief Collection, Microsoft Flight Simulator 2, and Gears of War E-Day are all going to be coming to PlayStation within the next 12 months. And yeah, it's safe to say it's something that I expected to happen after all the sort of the rumours, pretty much Phil Spencer making it obvious that it was going to happen. But to see it's actually starting to become real now is kind of a shock that we're basically seeing that Xbox's flagship title was going to be launching on PlayStation, and pretty much now Xbox has given up the ghost and they're seemingly quite happy to just become a third party publisher. And that's basically what they've spent all these billions of pounds on, basically just developing games for other platforms, and they've given up. And it's kind of sad to see, really, for something that the original Xbox, the Xbox 360 in particular, that were dominant platforms, really. Specifically the Xbox 360. Whenever someone says to me about that generation of consoles, the first console I think of was the Xbox 360. It was my go-to platform at the time. I loved the Xbox 360. It got me through a horrible time in my life. It really did help me out. The original Xbox, I remember spending hours upon hours playing with my best mate at the time, playing Halo. I forget what the map is now, but there was a map where you had two buildings at either end of the map, and we would basically just spend hours trying to snipe each other on it. We would do the Halo 2 multiplayer. We would do Halo 2 co-op. We spent hours and hours playing it, and it's a time in my life I'll never forget, and it's a time I think of very fondly. And it's why it makes this news so sad, really, to be fair. I mean, I'm lucky enough. I can afford to play on all three platforms. I do play regularly on all three platforms. I'll be looking to get a Nintendo Switch 2 when that launches. I think the latest rumor is that's meant to be coming on the 3rd of March, and the reveal date's meant to be on the 17th of January. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but that's the latest rumor. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's a sad sight. It really is a sad sight. A company that's got so much going for it, but for whatever reason, when it comes to consoles, they just can't hit the mark. And you can't help but feel they've made a lot of mistakes over the last 10 years. I mean, to have basically, I mean, someone can correct me, and I'm sure someone will correct me in the comments. But for me personally, from what I can remember, when the Xbox 360 was out, Xbox 360 was always your go-to platform. It was always a go-to platform. I know there was a lot of issues for developers to make games on the PS3 because of the way that it was built. So Xbox 360 always seemed to have the better built games. It always seemed to be, after they got through the Red Ring of Death phase, it seemed to be a lot more of a stable platform for people. I know it was for myself, and yeah, you can't help but feel after that generation, Microsoft have really dropped the ball. I mean, you had the Xbox One, which obviously they had that disastrous E3 press conference where basically they um they tried to stop people from playing pre-owned games, and then selling their games. They tried to stop that, and then obviously realised that that wasn't a smart thing to do, and they backtracked on it quite quickly. Um, and then after that, really, once PlayStation started to hit the ground running with their exclusives, I mean, they've never looked back, and Xbox has never really looked forward. That's the sad thing about it. And I know there'll be a lot of Xbox fanboys on it that will defend them to the hill, and I get that and I understand why. But I really feel sorry for anyone that owns an Xbox as their sole platform. Now, as much as I play on all three platforms, my sort of preferred platform is the PlayStation. I prefer the trophy system, and I prefer the DualSense. That's my main reason for playing on PlayStation. I know there's a lot of people that prefer to play on the Xbox, and when the Xbox Series X was due to launch, I remember having a discussion with my partner at the time about, I didn't know whether to pick one up. I was unsure, because my biggest concern was there wouldn't be any games for it. There wouldn't be any real support for it other than obviously backwards compatibility, which, for the record, Xbox does better than any other company. Um, but I basically convinced myself to buy one. Believed obviously what Phil Spencer was saying, what the other sort of Microsoft bigwigs were saying at the time, which was that they were going to be bringing out games and they were buying Bethesda. They were buying, obviously a couple of years later they bought Activision. There was a lot of things going for them. And yeah, the lies that they spilt at the time about, oh, we're going to be bringing out games and our main focus is making sure we've got a strong platform, a strong lineup. yeah, and now you look forward, what, 4 years, just over 4 years now, since then, sorry. And what's happened? Every single game that's coming out, apart from the odd couple, they're looking at putting straight onto their main competitor's platform day one. Now, I just do not understand it. I'm sure there'll be people in the comments that will tell me that basically Microsoft need to make money. They need to start paying back some of this money they've been spending. Obviously, acquiring Bethesda, the Activision deal. Obviously, they do lose money on Game Pass as much as they'll try and convince you that they make money. They will lose money on that. But I refuse to believe that they do not have games that can sell systems. I refuse to believe it. They've just released Stalker 2, which is a phenomenal game. I'm still working my way through it. I've just beaten Indiana Jones a couple weeks back. Unbelievable game. Really, really good game. As close to a game that can compete with Uncharted as you're ever likely to get. Now, off the top of my head, this over the next year or so, they've got these sort of games coming out. Apart from, you've got Avowed, you've got Doom, you've got Outer Worlds 2, you've got Fable, you've got South of Midnight, you've got Perfect Dark, which fair enough, that may be next year and the year after. You've got Gears of War Rebate, the Oblivion remake, which is rumored to be getting announced at the developer direct, and you've got Clockwork Revolution. They're just a few off the top of my head. There's so many more games coming. State of Decay 3, there you go. There's another one that's just popped into my head. So you're telling me, as a collective, these games will not sell consoles? They will not sell consoles and help them compete with Sony. I refuse to believe it. I refuse to believe it. Now, Sony's going through a bit of a rough patch themselves. They're not exactly releasing many first-party games um, that you would sort of say are big hitters. They're good games, like Rise of the Ronin, I would say is a good game. Um, but it's not sort of like your big AAA blockbuster game like a God of War or a Spider-Man. But you don't see Sony trying to quickly port their games onto an Xbox or a Nintendo Switch. And yes, I know they do put games onto PC. I get that, but you don't see them trying to jump into a hoop. Sorry, trying to give games to Nintendo or give them onto PlayStation. You don't see that because they're confident in their own ability to sell consoles. But with Microsoft, it seems to be the complete polar opposite, and I just, for the life of me, I do not understand why. I don't. As I've said, it's good for gamers. It's good for gamers. In the sense that if you're somebody that can only afford a PlayStation, maybe, if you're somebody that can only get a Nintendo Switch too, then that's good for you because you're going to start to get some of these games. Whereas if you're somebody that's gone out and bought an Xbox and you sort of got yourself pretty much brainwashed with the Phil Spencer comments that their full focus is on hardware, they're going to make sure they're bringing out games day one to Xbox. They'll not come onto PlayStation. Over the last year, he's completely backtracked. He's completely backtracked. At first, it was only going to be 2 or 3 games. They just wanted to try it out, and now all of a sudden, it's every single game. Over the next year, they're going to start porting over, and I don't think it's right. I really don't think it's right. I think it's poor on the consumer because there's a lot of people that, like myself, would have played an Xbox since the original Xbox came out in 2001. They would have played it since then, and now they're pretty much stuck with a console that they're seeing all the games going onto rival consoles. And the thing for me is they're due to bring out another console next year, which is, I believe it's called the Xbox Prime. I mean, that's the code name. Whether it stays that or not, I don't know. But they're due to bring that out. How do you sell that as a console? How exactly are you going to sell that as a console? What is going to make me, if I didn't own a PlayStation or an Xbox or a Nintendo, what is going to make me choose an Xbox Prime over a PS5 Pro or a Nintendo Switch 2? I don't understand what would, because if I'm looking at it right now and I'm going, well, if I only buy an Xbox, I'm not going to be able to play God of War or Spider-Man or Super Mario or Legend of Zelda. Yeah, if I buy a PlayStation, I can buy everything that Xbox offers and everything PlayStation's got. So I just don't understand it. I think it's very disappointing. I think it's sad to see Microsoft so happy to do a Sega and basically drop out of the console space. I never wanted to see Sega do it back in the early 2000s either after the Dreamcast. The Dreamcast was a console that was well ahead of its time, was a phenomenal console. Rivaled the PlayStation 2 in many aspects, sorry. But they seemingly were happy to drop out of it. I know their issues were a bit more severe with funding. I get that, But again, it was still sad to see it happen. With regards to Microsoft, though, it is sad. It's really, really sad to see what's happening with them. Especially Halo. I love Halo. I really do. Halo was a game that I grew up playing. Um, it was a game that generally helped me make a lot of friends at school, helped me build a lot of confidence. Clearly, it improved my first-person shooter skills, as you can see in here, where I'm getting my ass kicked. But no, in all seriousness, though, it was a game that meant a lot to me. It still does. It's sad to see the direction it's gone in over the last few years. Infinite was okay, but it's not what the original trilogy was. It's not. It's far from it. So again, I'm hoping. Obviously, I know they're looking at going on to Unreal 5, and they're looking at changing it up a little bit. I'm hoping that's going to work out for them. The only good thing to come for Halo, if I'm looking at it purely for Halo's sake, it will give them more. It will give them more opportunity to make money. It will give them more players. It will definitely give them more players. It's something that, I'll not lie, as weird as it's going to feel, I will be double dipping because I love to get platinum trophies. I love the trophy hunt. I'll definitely be looking to pick it up on the PlayStation, that's for sure, and probably do a playthrough of the game to the 100th time, that's for sure. But yeah, like I say, it's sad to see. I'm sorry to keep waffling on. I'm just disappointed to seeing what's happening now with the gaming landscape as a whole. I know that, like I say, I know there'll be people out there celebrating this and thinking it's great news and that, but what you need to remember is, if you support a football team or a soccer team, for any American people watching it right now, if you've got a centre forward up top that's banging in goals left, right, and centre, right, they're hitting 20 goals a season. The thing that you look to do the following summer, when it's a transfer window, is you bring in a striker. And you might think, well, why would you do that? Well, the reason you bring in a striker is because you give them competition. Because if you don't give them competition, what happens is then they get lazy. They get lazy, they get cocky, they get arrogant, and then their performance level drops. Whereas if you bring in somebody that's hungry, somebody that's hungry, is ready to go, what happens is then the player that's banged in the 20 goals thinks, right, I need to up my game now, I need to go again next season. It's the same for the console market. Nintendo, I never compare with PlayStation and Xbox because they're pretty much their own animal. They are, like, the sort of games that they bring out, I would never compare them. Plus, the numbers they do anyway, they're in their own league. Xbox and Microsoft, we need them both competing against each other. We need them both competing, because if we don't, Sony's going to get lazy. Then we'll suffer as gamers. Because the other thing that I want to highlight as well for this, the thing that disappoints me as well, there's a very, very, very good first-person shooter series on PlayStation that's not been around for a very long time, since the last PlayStation, PS4 came out, sorry. And that's Killzone. So now what we're going to get is we're going to get Halo on PlayStation before we actually get Killzone Trilogy ported onto PS5. Make that make sense. You know what I mean? Make it make sense. So we're going to be playing Halo on PlayStation before we're able to play Killzone. I know people say you can stream it, but the streaming service on PlayStation shit, so don't hit me with that. But yeah, it's just, like I say, it's just disappointing. Very disappointing to see, but it's one of these things. It doesn't matter how much I moan, doesn't matter how much anyone else moans. Ain't gonna change anything. It's just gonna stay the same. So, but anyways, guys, that's everything for me. Let me know in the comments below how you're finding it. If you're happy with the news, if you're not really fussed about the news, or if you're quite upset about the news, how it's going to impact you and your future console buying options, and what you're going to do with the Xbox next year. Are you going to look to buy the Xbox Prime? Or are you not going to look to buy the Xbox Prime? Let me know in the comments below, guys, and give me a thumbs up or even a thumbs down. Let me know if you've liked or disliked the video, and leave me a comment. Anyways, guys, have a great weekend. I'll catch you soon. Cheers.